So Dave, why did you ask me to bring a couple of sticks to the set?
Here's why.
What the heck?
It's a great spell from earlier editions, and I wanted to use it.
Well, I guess it's time to discuss Sticks to Snakes. Is it needed for 5th edition?
Welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds. I'm Nerdarchy Dave, and as usual, I'm joined by this nerd.
Nerdarchy Ted.
If you want to keep those D&D videos snaking through your YouTube feed, make sure you strike that subscription button like a viper.
But if it's Nerdarchy videos you aspire to, then you might want to slither over to that notification bell.
So we're going to talk about one of the earlier spells from, all the way back from 1st edition, and what it might look like in 5th edition. But before we do, we want to thank our sponsor, Dungeon Fog. Dungeon Fog is a great mapping tool that we love using, especially now that we're stuck gaming online. It's so much easier to just pull up my Zoom, share my Dungeon Fog map. I can do the player version that has the fog of war, and I can reveal parts of the map as I need to. I love drawing maps on Dungeon Fog. It makes me feel like I'm a kid again with graph paper. The only difference is my maps never looked this beautiful.
But that's not all. There's also a load of already made maps that you can use directly as is or customize to your heart's content, so that it's already a building block for you to work with. Dungeon Fog is a great resource, a great tool. There's no reason you shouldn't check it out, and Dave will tell you why.
There are 3 different membership tiers to choose from. One of them being free if you just want to check it out, poke around, see what you can do with it. If you like it, you can sign up to use it and to get a subscription, or you can get a commercial license, which allows you to actually take those maps and put them in products if you're a content creator. So you have options over there. There's no reason to not go check out the free version and see if this is a tool that you'll find useful.
So we're going to dive into the actual spell. And I'm actually going to pull out, my 2nd edition player's handbook from way back in the day. And I'm actually going to turn to the page and actually look at the spell, Sticks to Snakes. It's, alteration. It's reversible, which means, you could memorize it back then and actually memorize snakes to sticks if that was something you really felt you needed. But it affects 1d4 sticks plus 1 stick per level in a 10-foot cube. And by level, I mean the total level of the caster. So if you are a 20th level caster, it's 21 to 24 snakes. Super useful. If you want to, eliminate your opponent's arrows or spears or what have you. But by means of the spell, the caster can change 1d4 sticks into snakes. These snakes attack as commanded by the priest. There must, of course, be sticks of similar pieces of wood, torches, spears, etc. to turn into snakes. Such a stick cannot be larger than a staff. Sticks held by creatures are allowed a saving throw equal to that of the possessor. Magical items such as staves and enchanted spears are not affected by this spell. Only sticks within the area of effect are changed. It gives them the stats of 2 hit dice, an armor class of 6, which is actually, not horrible in that edition. That would be basically a 14 nowadays. A movement rate of 9. And either constricts for 1d4 plus 1 point of damage per round, or bites for 1 point plus poison, if any. And the snakes have a chance of having poison of 5% per caster level. The spell lasts for 2 rounds for each level of experience the caster has. And it goes on and on and on. So very fun, very useful things. It's not just I conjure animals and leave it at that. Because if that's all it really did, then we wouldn't really need to pull this in. It's that element of depriving someone of something while you gain in the process.
Yeah, the early edition cleric spells were very biblical in nature. Insect swarm or insect plague, earthquake, sticks to snakes. So they're kind of thematic, and it went away in 3rd edition, never came back. We kind of thought it was like a fun mechanic, that thing that you could do. It's been in the game in 1st edition and 2nd edition, always available to clerics and druids. It feels like it should be a druid spell if we were to bring it back. So in AD&D 1st edition, it was a 4th level cleric spell, 5th level druid spell, and then come 2nd edition, it was just a 4th level spell.
It was a 4th level priest spell, and clerics and druids would be able to pull off of the same list. It's just druids had a little bit more restrictions.
So when redesigning this spell for 5e, some of the things we looked at is, 1, we didn't think it was quite as strong as Conjure Animal, which is a 3rd level spell, so we're looking at 2nd level, and we're like, well, where can we really model from? And with that, we looked at Heat Metal, because it's a spell that really doesn't give you a saving throw to do the effect. The only saving throw is, do you want to take damage and hold on to the metal object or not? which is a super strong spell. So we're like, well, what if we took Sticks to Snakes and said, okay, in a certain area, you can just cast it, and anything that's non-magical made of wood, essentially, you know, bows, staffs, spears, and arrows, you could turn a certain amount of them into snakes. But instead of making it a snake under your control, like in earlier editions, they're just natural creatures that will act the way they normally would. They're probably indifferent towards the caster. And their goal is to just move away. They would probably just slither away. I mean, if you turn something into a snake that someone's holding, it might bite them because it wants to get away. But for the most part, it would be incidental. Because we thought it would be more thematic to be able to affect a bunch of sticks and deprive someone, or just, you know, make an impressive effect over making this a damaging spell.
You know, and imagine if your archer, you know, that you're fighting against, he draws out an arrow, he's got his bow, and as he's doing, you know, lining up his next shot, the bow disappears and there's a snake in his hand, and the arrow disappears and there's a snake in his hand. You know, he might be subject to 2 different attacks, you know, by these snakes.
Better yet, imagine reaching into your quiver and it's a quiver of snakes now.
Well, but that falls into the realm of
Yeah.
not being held at that moment. So that might, you know, be less. But that is just as amusing, in my opinion, to have that. I was like, where are my arrows? Oh my God! Fistful of snakes.
So what we're thinking is, when you cast a second level, you can affect up to 4 pieces of wood, 4 sticks, and create 4 snakes for them. This spell would have a duration of, you know, probably like a minute. It would have verbal, somatic, and material components. The material components are, you need sticks, obviously.
But this will be the rare chance where it's typically not things that you're holding. You're affecting things that exist elsewhere. If you really wanted, you could have the sticks and toss them to the ground as part of the casting and create them. But the object here is to deprive your opponent of something.
So we looked at conjure animal for at higher levels. So at higher spell slots, we went with 5, 10, and 20.
As a times multiplier. So as a 4th level spell, you're emptying an entire quiver, you know, and if the archer doesn't have magical ammunition and doesn't have a second quiver, that is 1 spell and you have just put that person out of ammunition. Not as potent as, you know, some other spells that could be done, but that could remove him from the you know, the primary means of combat, and that's, you know, that's better than actually killing them. So that you know, we thought it was a kind of a cool thing, and it only goes up from there.
No, what's better is, if they survive after that combat, they're going to have to go all over the place collecting their arrows once the snakes turn back into sticks.
It might actually just be better to be like, you know what, I'm just gonna go buy a new quiver because they don't cost all that much, rather than running all over the damn woods. Like, why is there a horde of arrows here?
But, you know, and also at higher levels, it's really amusing where, you know, you could take a whole, you know, a bunch of archers and boom, deplete all their quivers, or even better, deplete all their bows, you know.
Or, you know, imagine, you know, you being in a massive battle and you've got a line of spearmen, you know, across, and you just wave your hand and snake.
Yeah, they're going to be in for a surprise. Although the charging army also might be like, ew.
So, you know,
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a mixed bag there.
Snakes, I'm out. No one said they were bringing snakes. I was expecting swords and spears and arrows, but snakes, forget about it. We've gone too far.
So it was, you know, fun to just, you know, kind of talk about the spell, you know, reminisce, you know, figure out how we would work it into 5th edition. You know, we got to figure out whether we're gonna, you know, throw it up on D&D Beyond as a homebrew, whether we make a post about it, or, you know, whether it finds its way into one of our Nerdarchy products. Who knows?
Yeah, I feel like there's probably already a bunch of D&D Beyond homebrews up there for it, so you can check that out as well. But hey, if you like this, we've done this before with old D&D spells, Reborn, Death Knell. You can check it out up here.
Another place that we're creating new spells is over on Patreon, where we create products every month for players and DMs alike for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons.
That's not all. We do weekly patron-only live chats, monthly giveaways that our patrons are automatically entered in, and more.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.